Hi, sir. I've been working for a little while on this one, and honestly, at this point, I'll take anything.
So this is trash.
Please, sir. I'm starving.
I can't sell this.
You could use it as anything. You could use it as a placemat. Please.
Let's take a loss.
Thank you, sir.
Get out of here, bum.
Starving Artists is a game designed by Mike Akash, with art by Vaughn Reynolds and an innumerable amount of other artists in the public domain. It plays 1 to 4 players in about 40 minutes. Players compete to earn points, complete a certain amount of paintings, and not starve. To do this, they must keep their starvation track above 0 and complete paintings by placing corresponding colored cubes onto canvases. Each round of the game consists of 2 phases, in which each player can take an action. They can 1. Paint, in which they place up to 4 cubes onto any of their owned canvases. 2. Work, in which they draw 3 cubes from the bag of paint cubes. 3. Buy. Using paint in their supply, they can purchase one of the face-up canvas cards, the cost of which decreases the further from the deck it sits. Alternatively, as a free action, players can cycle the canvases available to buy and trade paint from the central pool, but at a cost. At the end of each round, a player can sell paintings to earn points, food, and paint. The paint, however, comes from a limited supply in the center, different from the bag. This ever-fluctuating supply may make it more beneficial to go another day hungry in the hopes of getting more paint. The game continues until a player has either scored the set amount of points or completed the set amount of paintings, depending on the player count, or when a player fails to keep their starvation track above 0. Once this happens, 1 more round is played, and then the player with the most points wins. All things considered, I do really like what's inside this little box, and it takes a pretty unique little system, but let's talk about the cons first. The paint drafting can be a little bit confusing. At the end of a turn, if you're not the only one selling a painting, then there's this draft system in which the person that is either closest to the first player or has the higher point value gets to draft paint first, and then the next player gets to draft next, so on and so forth. But the first player gets to draft 4, the next player gets to draft 2 paints, and then 1 paint, and then it kind of goes in a circle. It's a little bit confusing at first, and in that first initial round, there's probably going to be some questions, and honestly, that is the rule that I reference the most when playing this game. Another con would be that the cubes themselves are translucent, and I don't know if this is going to change in the 2nd edition painting, but we played with a friend of mine that is, to an extent, colorblind, and he had a difficult time distinguishing the different colors, and mentioned that if the cubes had been not translucent, if they'd been opaque, it wouldn't have been as big of an issue. And even those of us that aren't colorblind occasionally had to hold the cubes up to the light to figure out exactly what we were dealing with. The other thing is that the solo mode is a little bit easy. And there's other variants that you can throw in, but the base solo game, if you're looking for a challenging experience, if you're playing it by the rules, it's really not that difficult to complete. Now, what I do really like about this game is the art history. I mean, there are hundreds of pictures here, different pieces of artwork from every age, all over the place, different artists, all in the public domain, which makes sense. Like, this was a cheap decision that was also happened to be the best decision, which honestly, that very rarely happens. The other thing is, with this being a game called Starving Artists, what I really, really appreciate is just how tight that economic system is. You have to balance between not starving and then holding off, like being hungry for another day just so that you can get more paint so that you can maybe be more successful in the future. It's this tight walk, this balancing act that really is the driving force. It's the biggest thing going for this game, aside from how it looks. You know, a lot of people don't like games like Agricola where you're struggling to survive. But honestly, if you're playing a game called Starving Artists, you should know a little bit what you're getting into when you set up the game. But that balance, with the paint being the money and being the way that you complete works of art so that you can get more paint and then get more food, it's a system that works better than I originally thought that it should have. Right alongside with that tight economy is just how stressful it is. And this is something that some people strive on, and it's also something that certain people really hate. I love this. I love the fact that I can sit down and play this 40-minute game and feel that stress, feel those tough decisions to make. It's not necessarily like a super relaxing game, but there's a lot of important decisions to make. And that's the final pro going for this, is that this is a solid entry into that lightweight economic resource management game. And look, Starving Artists is a good game. It's a very good game. It's not necessarily going to knock your socks off with every one of its components. The gameplay, the immersion is not going to be something that's going to smack you upside the head and just really shout how great this game is. But it doesn't need to. Not every single game needs to be incredibly engrossing and thematic and just all-encompassing. It's good enough to have a solid, lightweight game like this. It's a breath of fresh air. You can sit down, bust this out, play that tight thinking game within 40 minutes, and be on your way. That's it. Starving Artist is a perfectly solid game, and if that interests you, check it out. I know that second Kickstarter's coming out soon, so I'll link it as soon as it is live.
Hold it like this. No.
I want to eat it.
Don't eat it. No, don't eat it.
Take some cake too.
Get out of here, you bum.
Okay.
No, you say.
I want to eat that bread. On the way, then say goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye, everyone. No, I only eat the bread.